We are. Do you have fiber?
I had it at the old office, and man, I could see a difference.
Really?
I was getting like 400 and 500 Mbps, and now if I check my internet speed test, I'm moving over to a non. I'm at 60.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
It's 10 times slower.
the take-home message is don't office at Regis.
Or if you do, make sure you know how to actually hook up the plug into the wall. Because I'm still on Wi-Fi, but it's good enough.
I'm going to shout out our new members real quick. Welcome Julian Hoffman, Cortland Maxfield, Donald Wilson, Matt Price, Katie Hajek, and Nicholas Robilette.
Whew, a lot of newcomers. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, we're about to hit 100 members.
Oh my gosh.
We're at 93. And we've got a couple of milestones. We're at 10,000 subscribers for the first time ever, obviously. And I'm at 2,000 Twitter followers.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Twitter's live. What pisses me off is you have more Twitter fans in my following than I do. Everybody's asking me about John. I'm like, shut up. You guys talk about that guy? Yeah.
We're team. Oh, that's so fun. Cool. Ryan's actually got a question right away. Does the number of asset groups / content in a PMax campaign impact the amount of time it takes for the campaign to begin produce quality results? Yes, and actually twofold. So what's interesting is the more that you have, the more it's going to test, but also tests in sequences is what we've been finding. So you'll see sometimes you'll sometimes see CPC spike, but impressions dip. Or sometimes you'll see impression spike and then conversion rate dip. But what's funny is you have to take into consideration, obviously, your metrics that you're tracking, which is conversions and cost per conversion, ROAS, whatever that may be. The vanity metrics may fluctuate, but what that means is that when it fluctuates, it's testing different platforms. But if it's testing different platforms like YouTube versus GSP versus Discover versus Display versus Shopping versus Search, you're going to see that it is going to take a little bit either longer, depending upon your ad spend, to test those inside of those ecosystems. But when it finds good producing results, it sticks to that and then tests the rest later. So for example, if you had 3 headlines versus 5 headlines, you might actually find that the one headline that you had, Google liked and is winning. Did it find it first or did it find it fifth? So it's the time to which Google finds what it likes. So if you have more, you have a better chance of finding it, but it also could take longer. And if you look at your asset groups and you look at your details and you see low and good and best in terms of performance, the low doesn't mean low. It means A, it either hasn't been tested yet, B, it has been tested and it actually is low, or C, after more conversions come in, low may go to good, may go to best. So time is on your side here.
Ryan also says, I'm following you on Twitter, Kasim. So Ryan just became my favorite.
Well, that's why we answered your question first, Ryan.
Archie Jeter, following up on last week's question, 2 feeds or 1 feed with duplicate products with different item IDs. 1 product is within Google's TOS, advantages and disadvantages.
I thought it said 1 product is within Google's terms of service. So I was like, well, there's your answer. Got it. Okay. So 2 feeds, 1 feed with duplicated products with different item IDs. Well, how is the ecom product ID sending that back? That's going to be my big question here. Is your ecom product ID is the dynamic remarketing parameter that is fired either through Google Tag Manager or through your Google remarketing tag, and is sending back to your Google campaign to say, hey, this is the product that was on the site that a person came and looked at. Is this ID, and it will only send back 1 ID. And then that is what's going to tell Google this is the product ID that needs to be remarketed to the end user. If you're sending back 1 ID and you have 2 different feeds, your feed that is going to match up with that ecom product ID is going to win by default. Unless I'm misunderstanding this, but I'll give you just a quick example of what this looks like. And I'm going to use a different client because that's the client I can't share. Let me do this here. This is going to be great for everyone to see. And actually, let me switch screens so that I can bring this one over here. All right. And let's do this. I'll use section because that's a really niched down, low competition campaign. Okay. So let me share screen here. Is this popping up? There we are. Perfect. So under tools and settings, and then under audience manager, on the left-hand side, you're going to want to look at your data sources. And inside your data sources here, you're going to have your Google Ads tag. The Google Ads tag is what I'm using for my remarketing. You're going to say ecom product ID. This ecom product ID here is the dynamic product ID parameter. Allows your dynamics to show the people the exact product that they visit on your website. When you click into ecom product ID, you're going to see a list of values here. These values are actually your feed IDs. So right now in the last 30 days, I have less than 50 people that need to be remarketed, and it just goes down to less than 50. But I have 119 for this product. I have 101 for this product. I have 57 for this product. You'll see 996 for this product. This is sending back into Google, hey, campaign that does dynamic remarketing. There's 119 people that need to be remarketed this item. And then Google says, okay, cool. So we have 2759, and then it hops back into your campaign. And this campaign here, and let's just say it's obviously the Performance Max and the products here, it's going to match that up to the product ID. And if you have your item ID, it's going to say, perfect. See that Shopify here? This is the one that needs to be remarketed to. Go remarket and get the the sales here. So this section, if you have two different feeds, my question back would be, well, are you sending back the parameter that is matching one feed or both feed? And if it's one, all you're doing is kind of technically killing remarketing on one feed.
I had a follow-up question for Archie, and you might have already asked this last week, and I just don't remember it, but what's the use case? Like, what would the potential benefit to you be in pushing two feeds?
Yeah, the different item IDs, I can see the definitely the bad, which is that, but I don't see the good, like what Kasim said. So that would be, maybe it's just something I don't know. So I'd love to hear from you.
Alfred Alonso, one asset group per lead gen campaign. Yes, lead gen PMax is challenging sibling. What happens if you have a $100 per day budget, test one campaign with one asset group for 45 days?
I think it's good, but just know that what Google officially said is the asset group that earns a click is the asset group that earns remarketing is false. That has been disproven many times now in this last few days that I've been tracking it. It is not true at all. So know that if you're going to use that model of lead generation in multiple PMax campaigns, and multiple PMax campaigns will have one asset group, look at your attribution model of first click versus data-driven versus last click, and identify what is actually giving you the most first click conversions, but then also the most last click conversions, but then also overlay your data driven to see if there's any sort of impression conversions that are also being counted inside of those. So it's really coming down to how you measure it. You can have one asset group, or you can have 20 asset groups. One asset group may be amazing and the other 19 may suck, or you have 10 that are great and 10 that suck. That's going to be up to what Google knows about the audience. So there's not a good best practice. My default would be obviously more asset groups has a better chance of finding those audiences if I'm mixing up the signals. But when you measure it, if you're using first click, last click, or data driven, you may confuse yourself and may look at the data incorrectly by saying, well, this is the asset group that mostly earned the click, but the other asset group in the other campaign is showing up for my brand name more often. So those people that are coming back from the first clicks of the other campaign are coming back to my brand campaign. You're going to win overall, but how you measure it is going to be the change. And that's where you want to use your attribution modeling tool, which is just model comparison tool inside of Google Ads under tools and attribution to identify what is actually doing the heavy lifting and where's the return path, or grab Northbeam.
That was the best commercial for Northbeam I've ever heard in my entire life. So you do all this insane, crazy bullshit, or you can just pay for the software that,
right.
By the way,
I try to give you the, like, I don't want to be the guy that, like, just use the tool, duh. Like, I want to give you the actual, like, here's the hard, heavy way to do it. And there's an easier solution if you have the estimate or the funding available.
So our boy, Michael Nadalin, who I've interviewed twice now for our YouTube channel, super sharp cat. He, for early stage PMax campaigns and for newbies who are playing the DIY game, his tutorial says one asset group for a new PMax campaign so Google can learn. And his strategy was actually pretty thoughtful. He said, first of all, he doesn't use any audience signals. He uses, well, I shouldn't say that. He doesn't use any outbound audience signals. He uses your custom list, on-site audiences, non-converters, etc. So your audience, one asset group, and then he uses insights to build new asset groups. And I thought that was pretty sharp, but I just feel like it would be so slow.
No, it makes a lot of sense depending on, again, how you're going to measure it. And I know that sounds like I'm kind of using a cop-out, but it's very, very, very true. That you can actually, by setting it up that way, you're favoring return traffic or existing customer. So if you have a low LTV and a great AOV, and you can confirm that these are new customers coming in, then you're sitting very, very well. But if you have a business model that supports a lot of heavy return traffic, you're going to have instantaneous good ROAS, and you're going to have good instantaneous success. But depending upon where the success is coming from, might be damaging long term. And that was the inefficiency that we saw in smart shopping happen. When smart shopping was so good at getting ROAS, but the new customer was terrible, and the customer cost of acquiring that new customer was fairly terrible as well. It's gonna be screen sharing time here again in a moment as soon as I get this pulled up. But this is I have this model built out, and this is where I would say yes, but. And I'll give you actually this is using Northbeam, which is what I obviously am going to use for this sort of demonstration. But this is where I think is a good indication of how this is going to perform.
What does Northbeam cost, John? Do you remember?
If you have like 250,000 page views a month, it's like $1,500, and then it's a slightly scaled down or up from there. Okay. Yeah, so it could be like as low as a couple $100, or it could be 10,000, just depending.
That was going to be my question. So it can be a couple $100 a month if you're early stage and new.
Yeah, if you don't have like a ton of traffic. But I'll give you a really good example here. So this is a Performance Max campaign. That's the last 7 days. Now, when you look at here, you'll see one that has a 1,600 ROAS, and I spent 14 grand and made 226,000 in the last 7 days. That looks good, right? Like, wow, that one has a 1,600% ROAS. But then you break down the new versus returning, and this one has a 1,300 ROAS on returning. It's costing me $6 CPA, but my new customer acquisition is 30,000 here, and I get a $26 CPA. So yeah, I do have a 1,300, but I've spent 14,000 to make 30,000 new. Good, that's not bad. But I'm not spending 14,000 to make 196,000 new. I'm making 196,000 returning that I'm basically just paying for again and again and again. But this audience here was actually my old smart shopping campaigns that I turned into a Performance Max campaign, but my signals were only the people that are on my website, which is my returning customers, the people that are, all converters, all visitors, all the people that are going to go and buy from me anyway. I've consolidated down to that campaign to make sure that when I launch a whole bunch of new Performance Max campaigns, I don't lose my returning customers. So yes, you can have amazing performance by doing it that way. And yes, it will teach. Now that campaign has taken 3 months longer than all my other campaigns to actually start to get new customers, but I had a 500 ROAS from the start. I just didn't earn that from new. So again, it depends on your situation. It depends on your business model. It depends on if you have frequent returning customers, because if you target your frequent returning customers, you're going to get your frequent returning customers. And who is your returning customers? People that Google you, the people that bend a website, the people that look like you're all converters, the people that look like all visitors, the people that look like your kind of cart abandoners. Yes. So again, take that with what it is. And if you say, hey, I actually don't have returning traffic, then test it. If you say I do have returning traffic, don't be surprised by high ROAS if you don't actually see your Shopify, for example, say new customer growth's up.
Can I tell you a joke?
Yeah.
What do people who suffer from incontinence and Performance Max have in problem, or have in common?
What?
It depends.
So, oh man, it's so funny because it's a dad joke that even kids won't get. So that's
Benjamin Miller says, hey guys, evening from a very warm England. Benjamin, you might not know this, but we're in Arizona. We live on the surface of the sun. So no matter what you're going through.
Let me just say it's cloudy and 103.
Yeah. Inside.
Yeah.
This is a good question that needs a definitive stamp. If you have a brand new account, straight into PMax, yes or no?
Yes, but
it depends.
I'll drop this here for everyone. Here's a little gold nugget. Here's what I would. Yeah, it's gonna hop into. Can I chat this?
Yeah. If you drop it into the Restream chat, it should go everywhere.
Okay.
And if you're watching this not on YouTube, the best place to watch this, by the way, is YouTube. That's where the chat is most accessible and what we pay most attention to. So
here's what I would say is a good cold traffic growth. Where's the chat? There's a private chat.
You might not have access to public chat because you're not the host. I'm going to re-chat it.
Let's see if you can.
Yeah, here we go. Bam.
Here's what I would say is a good This is lead generation and e-commerce. This is a good starting point. So did that pop up on the chat so everyone can see it?
Yeah. I'm going to read it. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can read it out. How it breaks down of 100% of your daily ad spend, 25% performance max, 25% DSA. Make sure you exclude your brand name in your dynamic search ads, please, for the love of all things holy. 20% inbound general. I recommend starting off with a pure broad strategy, more long tail automated bidding strategy like a target CPA or maximize conversions. A RLSA DSA. So a remarketing list for search ads or DSA, which means that if they're coming back to the website but it's not Google the keyword that you really wanted to, you're still going to capture it. You're not brand RLSA. A YouTube remarketing, because YouTube is great for remarketing. A 10% in YouTube outbound for cold traffic, and a 10% discovery. Those are two good top of funnel, cheap, really high quality traffic. I don't like display anymore. That is going to drive new customer acquisition, new customer awareness. So 25% performance max, 25% DSA, 20% inbound general, 5% RLSA, DSA, 5% YouTube remarketing, 10% YouTube, and 10% discovery. And those will give you a good top of funnel cold traffic campaign. It'll give you a good bottom of the funnel conversion, and it's going to give you a diversity enough to start with those and then adjust as your DSA. And I got your chat, so it's perfect. And the DSA RLSA is going to adjust as needed along with the YouTube remarketing. So those 5% you're starting with are only starting with because you have a brand new account and your remarketing lists aren't big enough to be utilized yet. So those are kind of placeholders. And then as soon as you see them kick in and they start because, you have at least 100 or at least 1,000 matched users, those will start and then adjust the budgets as needed. So that is my recommendation for the starting off with PMax. Yes, add some other things in there as well and then adjust as needed, but that's a good foundation.
That was a freaking masterclass, dude. Just out of curiosity, was RLSA within DSA, did FA invent that?
Usama.
Was it Usama? I remember it was one of our newbies who was like, "Oh, I would do this with this," and it kind of pissed me off because I was like, "Well, that's A, so obvious, but B, nobody's ever thought of that before. That is freaking genius."
Usama was like, "Hey, have you ever tried an RLSA for DSA?" I said, "Hey, do you want a job?"
Yeah, absolutely freaking brilliant, man.
So it's become a standard.
Very cool. So then we've got Jasper Van der Heide. Do you think it would be relevant to set up two different PMax campaigns, one only for new customers with cold targeting and another one only focused on your own data like retargeting audiences and customer match lists?
You can. The problem is, though, that they're targeting and they're signaling, but they're not hard targets. Hard targets first, but then performance dictates what they do afterwards. So my opinion would be to launch a PMax campaign for cold, then use a different campaign type for retargeting. What I mean by that is start a PMax with no internal signals, no landing page views, no all visitors, no converters. I'd start there, make that cold as possible. Then use YouTube remarketing, use discovery remarketing. If you want to run display remarketing, you can. I hate it, but you can run remarketing display. So your retargeting audiences, keep them isolated. And so what you've done is you've layered a degree of separation that is a hard separation, which means these campaigns are using possibly different bidding strategies, retargeting the existing customers that you can upload list-wise. And then the other one is doing really good, inexpensive, really broad-reaching cold traffic campaign. And those two will work together really well. That's the reason why you have a YouTube remarketing, an RLSA for DSA. That's the reason why our standard starting point has that cold traffic element built in, and then the way to remarket if Performance Max is not going to favor remarketing. The dynamic remarketing for video or dynamic remarketing for like display, both help and hurt Performance Max in their own special way. It just really depends on account. There's no rhyme or reason that I can identify why one was working better than the other.
We just earned another member, the high tech hippie.
Hey, high tech hippie.
I feel like the high tech hippie's been a member before.
I think it was a long time lurker, maybe first time subscriber.
Okay. Another question from Ryan. We utilize a lot of master products in our Shopify store to group matching product types together, but each variant exists as its own separate product ID. Should the GTINs be populated within each variant or the master product in addition to the individual IDs? Also, would you include the master products in a PMax campaign?
So I've done both. And I've actually separated. I've had campaigns where you have 1,000 SKUs, but there's only like 100 products with 10 variables each. And then I've had the flip flop. Here's my recommendation is you have to start with all and then consolidate down. unless you hit a point where one client, I think we tapped out at 750,000 products, so we couldn't add any more. So we had to actually only take like the hero one of each one of the variants. And what I mean by that is this. Google is going to report on the product that earned the click and earned a sale. This is really important to understand about variants, because if I have a shirt and I have a small, medium, large, and extra large shirt, I'm going to put the small, medium, large, extra large shirt into Google through the feed. I might find that the medium gets most clicks, but we sell the most large. Great. I'm going to consolidate to only advertising the medium, and then the people are just going to get to the page and choose the large and check out. I want that to happen. I'm not going to control it. I'm not going to dictate it. I'm not going to try to force it in direction. I'm simply going to leverage what happens. So we start with all the variants. Whatever variant gets 90% of the lion's share of the ad spend, because that's how Smart Shopping Campaign built into Performance Max works. Then consolidate down to that one variable, which means you have less SKUs, and then you're going to have to stick the GTIN of that SKU as that one. Like, that's just how it goes. Like, you're just going to have to be stuck with that GTIN. But that is the way that I would actually leverage Google's automation to say, okay, this is the ad that earned the click. That just happened to be the product that's led to the most sales. That's what you're looking to leverage. So
I had this exact question on Twitter, and just now I had a panic attack because I was like, oh God, I hope I answered it right.
How'd you do?
Yeah, I just gave myself an internal high five. I was like, nailed it. Yeah. Dodged the bullet there. Arms of Andes. Hola from Peru.
Hey.
How does data-driven attribution work? Nobody knows. We want to make sure our PMax gets attributed by PMax ads that resulted in clicks on our brand name, but not when we got clicks on our brand name because of a Facebook ad.
Yeah, you won't be able to find that out in data-driven. So data-driven attribution is not omni-channel. It's omni-campaign inside of Google Ads. That's a very, very, very important distinction that I think a lot of people have asked me that question that I really want to make sure I hammer home. Data-driven isn't what did Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter versus Google. It's not. Data-driven means out of my brand and my remarketing and my PMax and my competitive campaign, which one did the more amount of work? So it is not Facebook. Google will never see Facebook traffic that results in a brand click, no matter what attribution model you use inside of Google Ads. This is the reason why Northbeam exists, is because it's saying, hey, you had a click or a view on your Facebook ad, and then you had a click on your brand campaign that made the money. Northbeam will take that out of brand and give that back to Facebook. But what Google will do is, if you had a I'll give a good scenario. If you had a first click on a Facebook ad, a second click on an inbound search, and a third click on your brand, first click's going to say the inbound search, last click's going to say the brand. Performance Max, if you have a data-driven, it says, well, they actually had 2 brand clicks, so sometimes give it more towards the brand. It completely ignores Facebook. So your attribution model in Google is only the campaigns inside of Google. It is nothing else from any other channel. So don't think that you'll put in performance, or you'll launch a Performance Max campaign and then use data-driven and then say, well, you had 10 clicks on your Performance Max. We're only going to give you value for 8 of them because 2 came from Facebook. It will not do that. It will give you everything inside of its locked ecosystem, which is just Google specific.
Archie Jeter gave us more context on why he'd want to run 2 feeds in order to run both an existing successful standard shopping and PMax together without cannibalizing each other and more placements in. So Archie's trying to double serve. It's pretty smart, but you're going to get yourself into trouble there.
Yeah, that's circumventing policy suspension right there. I wouldn't do that. But if you wanted to run an existing standard shopping and existing Performance Max, you have to use the same item. And then you're either going to have to look at, again, your attribution model, or even, again, your if you have a better performing Performance Max campaign, your standard shopping is just going to be whittled down. So it's really kind
of creative, though.
It's creative. It's definitely creative, but Google is not going to allow you to run that. I would guess frequent enough to make that comparison.
We got another good person, Mike Griffin. Thanks for being a member.
Hey.
Steve Babulo, and I think I've gotten this right once before. What's up, Steve? Hey guys, URL expansion does not work if you link your PMax with Google Merchant Center. See what Google says when I try to turn on URL expansion. And then
If you go into your reports and you look at the landing pages that PMax is sending traffic to, you'll see that it does. And that's one of the reasons why we use NorthBeam as well, is if you turn on URL expansion, but you still have your feed attached to it, your shopping clicks will only go to those product pages. Absolutely. But the other non-shopping clicks inside Performance Max will go to wherever it would like to go. The campaign is, go ahead and pull that up so I can see the explanation. The campaign is subdividing inventory using listing groups. That's the shopping. Finally, URL expansion will only send traffic to land page related to the campaign's product inventory. That's correct. On the listing groups, yes, that's your shopping part. Then we ran into this issue even with NorthBeam when we were developing it, where the listing groups, I couldn't put a UTM parameter. It wouldn't work because my asset group, I had URL expansion on or even URL expansion off. It would send traffic to the pages either with URL expansion on, it would grow, or it would send traffic only to the pages that it was off and it would shrink. It only would go to those landing pages I wanted it to go. And when I put my UTM parameters in the asset group final URL, that would show up. But then my listing group would send traffic to the page that it needed to go to without the UTM parameters because I couldn't control that. So yes, URL expansion does not work in shopping, which is the listing groups inside Performance Max. That's correct.
Another point, Steve, that I think is really worth just embedding in your mind is Google straight up lies.
Yeah.
They will tell you something that then is not true. And it's the definition of gaslighting. So if Google ever says, oh, this won't work or this doesn't work or whatever, just be very skeptical of any of that information that you receive from them.
Yeah.
Dave Fogel has a tech support question. In Google lead form extensions, where do you get the key to test with a webhook?
In a CRM tool that you link it up to.
Good luck to you, Dave. Arms of Andes. We asked this question last week, but we're hoping to get John's take as well. That's code for we don't trust the other guys. We want John. For e-com brands, we're running a hyper-segmented PMax campaign now with our summer shirts. When winter comes, should we add a new asset group or run a separate PMax campaign for our winter jackets?
I actually, well, it depends. If you have a previous year of good shopping performance, I'd actually run that in the same Performance Max campaign. If they're new products for the new winter, like they have never seen this SKU before, I'd run its own campaign because I would actually use my asset groups to target something completely different because I have a new product that's never been seen before, and I have a listing group. I have a signal that has never been used before. So my opinion would be if you have good performance on that specific SKU last year in standard shopping or smart shopping, put it into its own campaign, add a new asset group that will start to kick right back in. History will say, aha, this one did well with this audience. That still would be fine. The listing group will help do that. But if it's like a new SKU and new campaign type, I would actually do its own campaign. This way you can control the cost if it takes a little bit longer to ramp up.
Dave Fogel, are you able to upload videos to PMax? It will not let me upload a video.
Yes.
That sounds problematic. Yeah, Dave.
Well, if the video's under, I
What
think
did you do?
Just press the mouse harder. I throw mine through the wall. That usually solves it. If it's under 12 seconds, then no.
That was 15.
Or is it 15? I think it was like 12 or 15 is like some like cutoff point.
Yeah.
I think it was like under 10 now or something. That's the last I heard. I was like, I had a video that said it was now like under 10 seconds. It's like, oh, okay. But here's the thing is if you're uploading videos to PMax, you're not going to actually let like an upload. I'm using upload as in select. You have to take your video, upload it to YouTube, and then grab the link. And then that link is what you use in PMax. When it says add videos here, you add the link to the YouTube video that you've uploaded to YouTube. So that's how you have to do it. If you're trying to take like from your hard drive into PMax, no, you have to send it to YouTube, grab the link, and then use that. Make sure though that the video is unlisted or public. It cannot be private. And make sure it's over 10 seconds or 15 seconds. I can't remember.
Jan Slavna?
Hey. Yeah, this has been a long time, viewer.
Do you think it's... Sorry?
I was going to say, I can never remember if it was Jan, or Jan. So I was like, hey, you.
Well, I've got a buddy who spells his name that way, and it's Jan. So I'm just taking it. Jan, let us know so that we don't butcher your name again in the future.
Yeah, I guess it's a phonetical spelling.
Yeah. Do you think it's beneficial to assign a conversion value to non-purchase / secondary conversion actions now that there are conversion columns and data in Performance Max campaigns and not just all?
Depends on if you're going to be measuring it that way. So since it's a secondary conversion action, it's not going to matter to Google. It's not counted. But if you wanted to see like how much is this worth, but not affect the bidding strategy, you can. You can almost just kind of do that in a custom column as well. But I don't see it being beneficial to Google. It'll only be beneficial to you, but I don't know why that would be. Let me reread this again. Do you think it's beneficial to assign a conversion value to a secondary conversion action? Now that their conversion comms did in Performance Max. Yeah, again, I think that it would be, Google's not going to see it, or not going to, I guess, react to it. So it won't react to it specifically because it's a secondary conversion. It ignores it. Secondary conversions are, Google ignores it, but if you want it, you can see it. That's the reason.
You don't think Google uses secondary conversions as predictive indications of intent?
Google uses everything. It uses everything. Absolutely. That's why you saw the beta. Did you see the beta that came out in Google? Google will tell you if you made a conversion on your site, even if you don't have conversion tracking.
When did this land?
A year ago. It's never been accurate though. So check this out. Inside of
it's never worked.
No, but it shows really, really crazy. So go into columns and go to modify columns here as an example. And then you go into conversions and you see something like orders. It's like this metrics in beta.
Yeah. We did a video on this.
Yeah, like a year ago. Like orders is the number of transactions completed on your site that attributed clicks on this ad. Every time a customer clicks on the ad and makes a purchase, is counted. So you actually have like revenue. So if I do like revenue versus conversion value, let's just say for the last 7 days, like look at here. So we have 0 revenue, 831 revenue. That's kind of cool. Now I actually have, where's my conversion value? I just had that. Oh yeah. So it says, hey, made 800. I actually made 1,000. That's close. That's pretty close. I had 31 grand in Performance Max and Google didn't see any of it. In my brand, I made 6,900. Google, I saw 4,400. Hey, that's close. But this is conversion tracking without conversion tracking. So Google sees everything. No one can tell me if it's not. It's like, hey, we actually just invented conversion tracking by what we think we know. It's like, you're seeing everything. No one can say like, oh, Google doesn't see that. No, that's not right. Google sees everything, which is why Performance Max gets smarter, even if you don't set up conversion tracking. But you're using your conversion tracking to manipulate what you want to have happen.
Steve again. John, last week there was confusion. Regarding running dynamic remarketing with PMax. Kasim said yes, it's required, but FA and Osama said you don't recommend it anymore. Who's right?
So, what's funny is we saw very large swings between, and that's what I mentioned before, dynamic remarketing, whether it be video or display or even discover, if it fights Performance Max and you're measuring, is my dynamic remarketing doing A, good on its own, or B, helping my Performance Max campaign, you could be right and wrong. So for example, we had some clients where we added dynamic remarketing and it did so much better. We had some clients we added dynamic remarketing and it failed miserably. It even pulled down Performance Max by 50%. Then switching that over to YouTube remarketing brought 1,000 ROAS YouTube remarketing. So it really depends on what channels your campaign in Performance Max is running and getting a good result in. If Performance Max is crushing dynamic remarketing and you add a third-party dynamic remarketing on, it's like, okay, now this one has a more aggressive bidding strategy on maximized conversions and your PMax is set on target ROAS, you're going to start stealing away some. Well, if that was a high-performing channel in Performance Max in the media mix and you just axe that off and say, why isn't it doing better? Yeah, it's not going to work. But if you look at your cost per view multiplied by your views, and you come out to say, wow, that's only 1/100th of my daily ad spend in Performance Max. Why don't I run YouTube remarketing? Now you bolted on an additional channel that could be performing better. So it all depends on if your Performance Max campaign is running those channels, if it's having good success, and if you bolt it on, does it hurt or does it help? And sometimes the only way you'll actually find out in display or discover is by trying it. If it doesn't help, then obviously it wasn't a good idea. But you can see if YouTube remarketing is either working or even YouTube outbound by multiplying your cost per view times your views to say, okay, if I was to run a cold traffic YouTube campaign or a remarketing YouTube campaign, how would that hurt my Performance Max campaign?
Have you ever seen The Princess Bride?
Yes, okay. Long time ago.
Well, there's a scene where he's the Carrie Elwes is across from the Sicilian guy, and the Sicilian guy's trying to figure out whose cup to drink from, and he's explaining to him why he can or can't choose each of the cups, and that's what I feel like I just watched. So I clearly can't choose the cup in front of you.
You know what's so bad is I have half the reasons why it works and half the reasons why it doesn't, and I've seen it.
No, what I heard really was it depends.
Yeah, it really does, and that's the only thing is you have to find out, well, let's use a real quick example. Performance Max has a $4 CPC, indicative that I'm on search and shopping. I could probably help my campaign with some dynamic remarketing, both on YouTube discovery and display, or all three of those. But if my CPCs are 38 cents and I'm running e-commerce, I'm probably not on search and shopping that much. It might be a lot more smart shopping. So if you interrupt that with more display remarketing, you're going to start splitting the difference and you're diluting yourself.
Once smart shopping is officially dead gone, do you think dynamic remarketing will take more of a place of importance?
Well, I'm not going to say the word depends. So once dynamic remarketing is gone, is it worthwhile to run heavy dynamic remarketing?
I mean, once smart shopping is gone, is it worth?
I mean, yes. Once smart shopping is gone, is it worthwhile? And my question a lot of times is the CPA better on a new, or is CPA better on a longer term display remarketing user?
And then I think a follow-up question, that would be the LTV of that customer too.
And the returning customer.
Yeah.
Great.
There's a whole bunch of like post-acquisition data that needs to be looked at.
If you're like, hey, I need a lot of brand new customers and I need to get my brand awareness up and I need to do some more mass marketing and I need to get myself out of a slump, don't do display remarketing. That's not going to help. That's what smart shopping was doing a lot. And over time, yes, it does help and it grows. But if that's not the focus, then don't do it.
Hey, Uzair's here.
Hey.
We should shout out his channel real quick. Y'all, Uzair, our channel wouldn't exist if Uzair didn't talk us into creating a channel. And we're his direct competitor, so he had no reason to do this other than he's just a good dude. So if you follow us, make sure you go follow him. He's at 20,000 subscribers. He's double our subscriber base, John.
That's awesome.
I should run ads on his channel.
Yes. Yeah, and we'll make a jingle. Don't run Uzair, run Solutions 8. Just kidding. That's awesome, man. That's great.
But I'm dropping his channel in the chat. Go check out Uzair if you haven't checked out Uzair. Uzair, thanks for being here, buddy.
Just an awesome person.
Yeah, he's super cool. He was actually in town. I didn't get to go see him because I've got all my whatevers, but he was just here. Tommy Dukas now is here. Happy Friday, you both.
Didn't Uzair have a question?
No, he was making fun of me. I'll show you. He said, can you send me a link to your calendar? So I posted this to Twitter today. Did you see this, John?
Yeah, I saw that.
This is somebody asked me for some time, and I sent them my booking link, which requires you to pay, and they were not happy about it. And then I also, charge enough to pay my mortgage, and they were also not happy about that either. So I've been getting some flack.
Well, hopefully the owner of that agency is here and you're getting it for free. So
yeah. Well, what's funny is they are my friend on Facebook, and so I shamed them on Facebook, and hopefully they'll never talk to me again. Dan Rosette, if I run a very good PMax and I have YouTube remarketing, should I also do DSA for remarketing, or since everything is good, I don't need to add new things?
No, a DSA remarketing alongside of PMax, if it's already up and running well, I wouldn't add it to it. I would add it in the beginning so that your search channel inside of Performance Max gains new signals of the users that are using that channel to find you. So that's why I said it's a good starting point. When you're launching PMax for the first time in a brand new account, you're using DSA to say, hey, I'm forcing some spend on the search channel. These are the search terms that are coming in that are working. Performance Max is going to say, sweet, I need those too. And then you might even increase or decrease, just depending upon whether the CPA and your bidding strategy, et cetera, are lining up to. If you're already getting good if you're already getting good PMax performance, go into your Insights tab, look at the last month, and then look at your search categories. If your search categories are getting a good amount of volume, which means the search categories equate to X amount of my total campaigns conversions. Like you see, hey, this one keyword had 10 sales and my campaign had 12 sales total. All right, 10 of the 12 are coming from DSA. But if you look at your DSA campaign inside of Performance Max, which is the search categories, and it looks bad and looks irrelevant and it doesn't look very good, check your site to make sure that Google is crawling your site and understanding what you're running, because otherwise another DSA campaign is not going to help. But if you don't see a lot of high volume in that area, if you see only like 1/10 of your sales coming from DSA, where the DSA looks quality and you have good conversion rates, then launch a DSA campaign to help support that.
Boom. Alfred Alonso, lead gen specifically. Multiple audience signals in one lead gen asset group, for example, customer list and market, the customer list and in market in one asset group. Will that work for $100 per day, or split 2 campaigns at $50 per day?
It really depends on your CPC in your industry. If you're talking about attorneys, no, $500 a day, one PMax campaign. If you're talking about, maybe more nationwide, maybe a little more SaaS, yes, that would be absolutely fine. Just make sure that if you look at your CPC and it gets to like $2, $3, or $4, you're gonna need $100 a day. You're not gonna be able to do that with $50. So that really depends on your CPC. Lead generation is a lot easier than e-commerce when you're talking about PMax because you can stuff everything in one. You're not gonna have a bunch of return traffic doing a whole bunch of cold searches on lead generation. Be like, I just keep filling out your forms and love you so much. That doesn't happen. So you're going to have a different scenario. So this doesn't need to be as strict as e-commerce because the lead generation is going to favor DSA more than anything else. It's going to have good brand awareness from your other campaigns that are going to have good brand inbound searches, which sometimes you might see brand coming into your performance max, which is fine. But your asset groups, you can shove them all into one. But think about your next step. Don't think about, hey, is this good? Yeah, everything's good. One asset group is good. 50 is good. What do you do next? If you're like, okay, now how do I optimize? Okay, if you have everything shoved into one, now what do? You don't think about, is this right for my first foray? Think about your second and third strategy update for optimization, especially if you're an agency and the client's like, give me better leads. You're like, well, shit, I stuck everything in one and now I don't know what to do. When I stick everything in different campaigns, I can say, well, man, this one's doing twice as good as that one. What if I just reallocate spend? Think of it kind of like a good standard search campaign. You're not just going to dump everything into the 10 keywords you have and just cross your fingers and hope things happen for the better. You would have to do that if you had everything in one asset group PMax. So think about what are your optimization steps next and how do you react to good or bad? My solution to that is separate them out by campaign so I can at least isolate the signal I was going after and hopefully steer it the right direction by reducing or increasing ad spend for that campaign.
Dude, that was a value bomb that I want everybody to stop and just think about. That should be written up on your wall when you're building.
What to do next?
What are you going to do next? Or what would you do next? Or what could you do next based off of the way that you're building this? Because we've actually run into that ourselves to where, well, it's working, but we don't know what's working, how it's working, why it's working, or where to go from here. So this is hard-won experience. And I just think that's the smartest thing I've heard all day. Make sure you always know what the next step is, or what the next step could potentially be based off of the way that you're building this.
Yeah, you can actually have a better one asset group performance than you would with 10 asset groups. But I can guarantee you that if I have 10 that are doing slightly worse than that one, I can make those 10 better.
The High Tech Hippie has a question. I feel like we know this person.
Who I know.
High Tech Hippie?
I feel bad. I'm the same way. I've seen it before, but I can't remember why. Maybe just a previous chatter when we had it open to everyone. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, non-PMax question: is your strategy and build process changed for search based off your 2020 tutorial?
Not really. No. The 2020 tutorial was focused on pure broad, I believe. And if that is
it was broad automation.
Yeah. I still like that. I still like it a lot because even Google since 2020 has moved further into that. I have a lot of clients, even some clients that we consult with, they're like, hey, I'd like to get my brand campaign up. I'm like, it doesn't happen. We have another venture that Kasim and I and Yvonne are branching into that we're looking at just some search volume into a different industry. And that is really difficult to be like, crap, if this one word in my search term wasn't there, this would be a lot better campaign and we can't get rid of it. So for some really specificity, there's areas that are being moved more and more out of your control, but you get a cheaper CPC and more broader reaching campaign, more specificity, more like a DSA campaign run pure broad. I still like it better.
Oh, I know where we know High Tech Hippie. We were talking about working together, and he says I pester John with emails.
Oh, that's right. I have a horrible memory for people, actually.
Anything but numbers. Well, we got another member. Franklin just joined. We've had 5 members today.
This is amazing.
I know. We are now making $312.84 a month on members.
Woo! You know what's so bad is I don't even care about that. I like not having.
Restream costs us more money. Do you realize that? We actually spend more money on the channel than we make on the channel. Swear to God.
It's costing us money to be here, folks. Yeah. That's how much we love you.
But it's cool. It's cool. And we're not diminishing it, y'all. Like we really, really appreciate. This is just the easiest way to figure out who actually wanted answers to their questions, you know?
Yeah, because otherwise the owner of logical position pops in and asks questions and we're like, I'm not helping you, man.
Yeah. which could potentially be happening to us behind the scenes. Arms of Andes. For a fashion e-com, are there column metrics you would recommend to use to analyze your campaigns, apart from the standard conversion rate or ROAS by time?
For fashion e-com, are there column metrics? Column metrics you would recommend to analyze your campaigns apart from, yes. So it depends on, again, the channel that you're wanting to be in. So for example, if you have been running fashion e-com and you know that smart shopping did good, that had low CPC, it was pretty much heavy display remarketing, probably remarketing a lot of your Facebook traffic, you might want to see if that's happening again. So all of a sudden you see your CPCs kind of spiking to $4 or $5 and you're like, well, I'm seeing more new customers, but my ROAS kind of sucks because I'm paying too much and I'm actually having less returning customers. That would be an indicator that you might want to run a remarketing or retargeting campaign to lists of specific, user types. I recommend going, if you're on Shopify, go and use like the by the numbers application, and you can actually export all of your good customers, your customers that purchase more than 5 times, people, and just look at your trends and see if you have more new customers but less returning customers, and then make a focus on exporting that list and maybe putting up some different campaigns, incentivizing those people to kind of becoming returning customers by taking them out of PMax and focusing on them inside of display and discover and YouTube campaigns specifically. But all of those things, I use those as lead indicators for what I want. If I need good high ROAS and I'm getting that, I really don't care about everything else. But if I need all of a sudden find new customers, what channels am I going to find those new customers at? Am I actually on those new channels, or should I start supplementary campaigns for those new channels? And those are the metrics I would look at. If I need to find my new customers on YouTube, are my views up? My view rate up? Am I getting good performance on the YouTube videos I have? Are they all low performance being ignored by Google? So use them as like step 1 of step 5 to get to where you need to go. First thing I would ask is, what do you need? Then I'll share with you the metrics you need to watch.
Well said. Anime Laboratory. I tested max conversions and it was pushing only cheaper products and did not spend any money on expensive products. Do you recommend max conversion value bidding instead?
No, because max conversion value is only going to try to get you a ROAS break even of 150% or 200%, depending upon what Google feels like that day.
Depending on what Google rep you're talking to.
I know, exactly. Like, trust Google. Like, it's 150 knows too. I'm like, you guys figure it out and get back to the rest of the population. So, my opinion would actually be, if you want to, it's bold, but I've had big success with this, is to actually only put into the feed items over a specific AOV. So something like, hey, if I'm looking at my average products, what has the highest AOV, not the product price, the highest AOV, because sometimes you have a product that's like, oh, I bought 3 of those. That's a big AOV. A lot of your conversions are multiple purchases of the products in one cart. That's a good example. So choose the products that have higher AOV historically. If you're brand new, then you have to find a baseline. Only choose the products that are still in demand and above a $75 cost. But I would remove all the small products from your feed. It's very, very, very difficult to control, especially in PMax, but anywhere else, because people have free will, they go to your site and buy the cheap thing. That's just going to happen. So try not to drive that traffic to your site of the cheap thing. That's step 1. Then if you have historical averages, go into your analytics, go to your eCommerce, go to your product performance, and sort by the amount of products that have the highest average order value. That'll tell you what products have the highest average order value. Start there. Weed out all the ones that are the exceptions. So it's under $50 as a price, but this usually has a $77 AOV. That's step 1 to get that into your SKU list. And then after you've eradicated all of those out, then look at, okay, now everything at $70 and above is good. Only market those, give it an appropriate amount of time, a few months, and say, yes, my average order value is higher, my ROAS is higher, allows me to scale faster.
Can I ask a question? The product that has the highest AOV might not necessarily be the product that's purchased, correct? So,
nope. In analytics, if you go into the e-commerce tab and analytics and product performance, that will actually show with you, regardless of channel, what was actually your best performing product was.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying. So you just want to make sure that you're not cutting out products that are catalyzing purchases, even though those aren't the products that are being sold, because you could have low spend or low margin products that are the ones that are bringing the customer and then forcing them into who knows what pocket of profitability.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is if you're running Performance Max 2 and you're looking at your listing groups and it's a $7 product that's producing $100 sales, that's where you need to identify the AOV. Yeah.
Mike Griffin, I sell a high-priced item that requires more touch points before purchase. I know that PMax is overwhelmingly prospecting and I can't use remarketing audiences for this product. I think, is there a part 2 to this, Mike? Nope, this is it.
I'm guessing because you have a policy issue is the reason why you can't remarket them. For this one, I would actually offer a different form of approach than just e-commerce. We have a company that I can't say its name, but they sell machine products that are $5,000 to $40,000, and they're big like lathes and drill presses sort of thing. So these are not sales that happen just e-commerce. So our 100% ROAS is actually producing like 700% ROAS. What I would say is if we have a product that has a longer sales cycle, take it offline. And I honestly mean that, and it sucks. And I know this may not be what the business future plans are or what you may want to hear, but I've seen it happen time and time again. Kina, for one, Kasim. This is really good. This is a very good example of that. One. The other one is this other client that sells these machine products that I was talking about too. But they have a small sales team, and what they look at is request price quote or get shipping rates. Like there's a lead generation aspect to this where they take it offline, and then that makes a sale. So if it's like, hey, people are not going to come back, I can't remarket to them, and I got one shot to actually get these people onto my site, then offer a different offer. One thing that we had was a very large chandelier company with $50,000 chandeliers. We removed the buy now button and we put get price quote. And that price quote generated leads. And then they had sales follows up, and then all of a sudden it turned into sales process 6 weeks later because it was a $50,000 hand blown glass chandelier. So and then we got suspended by Google, and we had to put the buy button back on, but we stuck it at the bottom. So then like, yeah, you can check out. You just got to go, right on the bottom in the footer and buy now. But the main call to action was request price quote. So my opinion, and I'm only saying this because A, it sucks. B, I know it is a more human aspect and you want more automation, but I've seen this work almost every time by actually taking it one step before the add to cart begin checkout by offering a very logical sequence to the sales process. Logical sequence to a sale is a thing in your mind. It is there any sort of interruption that is going to happen along the way that's going to make me say, wait a minute, let me think about this. You've lost them because you can't remarket them. What is the next logical step? If you were in a room together, be like, hey, you interested in buying? Yeah, I am. Well, have you ever thought about that is your lead magnet? That is what you're going to then use to get them to the next step.
Ready for rapid fire?
It hasn't been rapid fire.
Arms of Andes. For data-driven PMax or even first click, if the person was shown a lot of PMax ads but ultimately clicked on our organic brand name, would PMax get the attribution?
For data-driven, yes. For first click, no.
Tommy, does that mean that if you disable URL expansion, you force it to spend more on the shopping channel?
No, it means that you're going to force it to spend on whatever asset group and how many asset groups you're sending to a page in addition to your listing group. So yes, and.
This is my favorite comment ever. Alfred, how do you know if you're a PPC genius? If you understand 50% of what John is talking about when he gets going.
Hey.
Brett Nelson, solid results. PMax campaign after 1 month on 1,000 products. Good job, Brett.
Nice.
Must add 16,000 more. Same niche. It's in wall art with different signals, but can't rock the boat. New campaign or asset groups?
New campaign.
Really?
New asset group will absolutely rock the boat. Yes, it depends. Now, here's the thing: is because the chance of 16 additional 1,000 products in addition to the 1,000, if you have more search volume and demand for that other 15,000 or 16,000 that's in there, it's going to take away from your existing. Yes, the chance of that happening is fairly high, I'm guessing.
Jan says, we're pronouncing his name right, by the way. So Jan says, so you're using non-purchase events as primary, secondary actions currently. If you're using them as primary, you're still not assigning conversion values.
I do not use any non-purchase events as primary, or most of the time even as secondary.
Tamara or Tamra, PMax video views going up, but sometime bigger discrepancy between Google Ads and our own attribution. Engage views conversions going crazy, but conversions don't reflect in own attributed data. There's a second part.
Yeah.
Not sure how to continue if I can't prove these conversions.
It depends on how you're attributing your own data. If you're using a tool like Hyros or even like Wicked Reports, and I'm not going to speak bad about them because it's not my place.
They suck.
Well, they tell you a third story. There's what happened, then what Google says, and then a third story. So my opinion is I don't know enough about how you're attributing your own efforts for me to say that's good or bad. And I know it's a cop-out, but I don't want to ever say like, well, don't use that because that sucks, and because I can't prove that. I have proven it for myself many times, but the way that you're attributing to it, I don't know, and I think we need more information on that part. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth.
It's a good answer. Yeah. Dennis Thomas, glad you guys have nearly 50 specs now. I have been here when we were 5 combined for weeks. I never even thought so many people would care about Google Ads. That's really funny.
It is crazy. Google Ads is the hot topic for like the next decade.
Dude, it's going to get worse. Wait till a recession hits. Yeah. This is where everybody's going to go, y'all. Not to soapbox this, but just be prepared. Dennis, again, for e-com, would you add images to display remarketing or only the product catalog?
I would add actually images. If you look at the match rate of your ecom priority is under 40%. So you're going to go into your tools, go into your audience, go into your audience sources. And then if your ecom priority is firing less than 40%, add hero and lifestyle images, which means, hey, 60% of the people that came to the site, we could not match with a specific product. What do we show them? Show them a good banner ad.
Donald has an interesting question here. For PMax lead gen, if you don't have 15 to 20 questions in your form, would a tool like Typeform prevent bots from filling out a form with 5 to 6 questions?
It's not bots, it's click forms, and that's the important distinctions.
But don't you think if a person saw a slider or survey and wasn't sure how deep it went, that actually also might be an inhibitor?
Absolutely. I've even had clients that are testing multi-step forms without the steps. So there's like 3 questions, but there's like 4 pages. So you don't know if you're on like 102, 104, 204, 304, or 404. It's being built now, so I'll let you know.
When I talked about how much we make on our channel, Alfred goes, "That'll buy a box of Depends."
That's awesome.
Dennis, would you exclude 0 to 6 a.m. for PMax campaigns? They seem to have the highest CPAs through all campaigns consistently.
No, and the reason why is because it depends on your time lag. If you have people that are searching from 0 to 6 a.m. that convert on Monday at 10 p.m., it doesn't mean that they didn't find you from 0 to 6 p.m. It means they took action at 10 p.m. on Monday. So I've had it both on search campaigns, yes. On PMax campaigns, no. Because it always depends on the average time lag, the days to conversion. All those things you have to think about is if it's not just a one click and done, you're cutting out possibly the area where they were interested that you can't track.
It's pretty safe to say that we don't want to optimize by dimension in PMax, right? Like time, date, even device, like
you basically have to ask the question, and I'll reduce it down to ridiculous. It's almost like, when do you run the banner ad? When do you run a billboard? When do you run a newspaper ad? When do you run a TV ad? It's like, you never did that before. And you can't do that now with Performance Max. Those strategies still maintain if you're like, hey, it's less than 1 day conversion, and it's 1 click to a conversion. Absolutely. But if you say, hey, it's more than 2 clicks to a conversion 30% of the time, you might cut out 30% of people. So
and not know it depending on what your conversion lag is and the time to purchase.
Yeah, go into tools, go into attribution, and look at average engagements to a conversion. Engagements means a YouTube video ad view, does not mean a click. It means they saw a YouTube ad video. If 35% or more had 2 engagements before a conversion, you're cutting that out. So just be wary.
Anime Laboratory, do you recommend max conversion value betting when maximized conversions is only focusing on cheaper products?
Yes. I actually recommend excluding the smaller price products first, then using maximized conversion. What that means is that once you exclude the products that you really can't make a dime on because you're paying $3 to sell a $10 product with a 50% profit margin, you make $2. After you remove all those, then using maximized conversion value bidding means that it's going to try to get at least a 1.5 or 2x on higher price products. So bingo.
Clarification question there, because the SOP that we just released tells everybody to use all products in their early stage PMax campaigns. So should the SOP be revised, all products less?
No, because what happens is a lot of times you're going to look at what is actually selling. And if depending on your SKU list, if you have a $10 product and you have a $100 product, I don't mind having a 100% ROAS if I'm also getting the 300% ROASs. And my average I need is 200%. So you're going to lose volume to get a 50% higher, but you've also lost 10 grand that month. So take the bad as long as it's being averaged out with the good, as long as you're averaging out to the good. That's the
because it'll also limit the learning.
Right.
And
the LTV might be really good on those small price purchases.
Right.
Or
which
lead
we've
into
seen
bigger
often.
Or lead into bigger purchases later, correct.
Frankly, I'm in the health niche, so keeping my merchant stores unbanned has been extremely difficult. How reliant is PMax success on shopping ads? Could I see success without a merchant store?
How reliant is PMax? I would run a DSA at that point, because the only time you really need merchant center is with shopping. And if you're going to need to be having heavy reliant on PMax, I would do it without PMax. So run a Discover, YouTube, Display, GSP, to run everything outside of PMax. I would run PMax because the beautiful part about PMax is it does do really well dynamic remarketing on shopping through display to a user, and sometimes you have 13 to 15 day time lag. So if you're having issues, don't run PMax and cross your fingers, because it might be missing like the big chunk it needs to convert that you would find that if you're running them individually.
Anime Laboratory. In total, I have around 40 products. Minimum price is $50 and max price is 170. Maybe I should create a separate PMax campaign for different prices.
No, just look at what those $50 products are doing. And it's only been 3 days since launch. You're looking at this 60 days from now.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can't share with you how many times I'll pull it up on a different video because I do have to go. Right. Actually, you know what? I'll do this real quick. Let me hit this. And I know we are almost out of time. We're actually out of time. But here's a really great thing. If I look at the, let me sort these out here. I promise this is going to be fast. Not get rid of the alls and then do the conversion.
Tell me when I bring it live.
Yeah, you can go ahead and bring it live now. I'm just getting this all sorted. So check this out here. If you look here and you look at the conversion value, and if you look at the conversions, you're going to have to look at this. And so I have 10 sales of the $64 product, but I made $734. So what you have to look at is if I was to make lower price product sales, actually, let me just go to the top here. Come on. Yeah, let's just do the last 30 days. I sell too many items in this one account.
While you're doing that, Steve asks how they can get their hands on our SOP. Steve, stay tuned because I've got a video going live in the next couple of days. Or for a sneak peek, you can follow me on Twitter.
Yep. So what you're going to find is that sometimes, like, this is a bad example, but it's like one sale of a $10 item was 13. Like, you're going to see some things in here, and I don't have a really extreme example of this right now as I'm only going back 30 days. A lot of times you'll find that a product actually is, hey, I have a $59 product. This is bad. It had one sale, but I made 42. Okay, well, that actually has a lower AOV than the product price. So you have to look at it between what product is actually giving you a higher AOV or lower AOV than the product price itself. I do have to go. I'm so sorry I'm in late for a call.
Yeah, y'all, everybody who's showing up and asking questions, thank you so much. We love